Boy finds a powerful robotic arm that destroys any enemy on its own. If you dig my recaps, don't forget to subscribe and smash that notification bell. Pedaling through the futuristic city of Kitakagami, the protagonist of this story suddenly has his attention drawn to a strange occurrence on top of a building. Just minutes earlier, inside the building, armed security guards discovered that an important item was being stolen by a young woman. Using the robotic limbs attached to her body, she skillfully climbs the structure with incredible ease and makes it back to the balcony, only to be met by dozens of men aiming their weapons at her. Then a tattoo on her leg emits a strange glow, enhancing her metallic limbs. Witnessing this, one of the guards shouts that she's a mecha-UD user. The machine's speed and strength were unreal, but the security team had anti-mecha-UD weapons and managed to immobilize her. At that moment, a man with mechanical limbs of his own shows up to retrieve the stolen item. The girl's machine, which seems to have a life of its own, is shocked to see another of its kind working against its species. But the man claims that mecha-UDs are nothing more than tools for humans. He then pulls the item back with his bladed chains, but the girl commands Sinis and Dex to devour the enemy. Her metallic limbs break free from their restraint and charge at him, igniting an intense battle. During the fight, security begins firing again, but the woman evades the bullets and keeps fighting. After a fierce exchange of blows, she manages to retrieve the item from her opponent's hand, but a crack in the glass causes the object to explode, emitting a beam of light that the protagonist saw from a distance. Following the explosion, a cube leaks out from the container and falls off the building. The next day, Hikaru Amatsuga wakes up to a voice in his head asking for help. At the same time, his alarm clock rings, completing its job. A while later, Hikaru leaves the house with his bag. Around the city, advertisements and drones from Kagami Corporation line every corner as Hikaru takes a crowded subway, still wondering what happened the day before. While researching, he finds an article on the life's work of Naohito Kagami. In the comments, someone mentions that it's pointless for regular people to even try. Just then, a man falls asleep on Hikaru's shoulder, interrupting his reading. Standing in the subway, a pregnant woman catches his attention, and two older ladies are probably gossiping about the young man's lack of manners. But Hikaru is simply trapped by the sleepy passenger. Turning back to his phone, he sees an ad for Kitakagami Prep School, which makes him start sweating nervously. As Hikaru remains frozen, the sleeping guy gives up his seat to the pregnant woman. In reality, Hikaru remembers he forgot something and needs to get off, but three schoolmates approach him in the subway to chat on the way to school. During their conversation, someone mentions receiving a sports ball, and Tagawa says that when it comes to baseball, Yakumo Kagami is the biggest celebrity in Kitakagami, but that now it's going to be the era of the monster Kasuke Tagawa. The prep school ad had the slogan, "Take a step forward, seize your future." But Tagawa thinks regular people like them are struggling precisely because they can't take that step forward. He asks Hikaru's opinion on the matter, but Hikaru was zoning out on his phone and didn't hear anything. Meanwhile, the girl with the mecha-UD learns from her mechanical arm that the cube must be nearby. After taking his eyes off his phone, Hikaru tells the story of what happened the day before. According to him, after thinking, he heard a voice. He looked out the window and saw the area around the Kagami building glowing in a strange way. When he climbed to a high spot for a better view, the building exploded and he recorded it. Along with the explosion, a glowing object was falling from the building, but none of it was caught on camera. At that moment, a girl named Shiriyama joins the group to see what's going on, and Tagawa tells her that Hikaru's been having bizarre hallucinations about voices and things exploding. Another friend asks what the voice sounded like, and Hikaru, embarrassed, admits it was someone asking for help. As soon as he says this, he feels an intuition that the voice came from a certain direction, so the protagonist runs off without explaining further to his friends. Hikaru reaches a place where crossing is prohibited, and a police officer makes that very clear. Once the officer leaves, Hikaru hears the voice even more clearly, so he crosses the "do not pass" line and heads toward a grated door where the back of the room was completely dark. Mustering his courage, Hikaru enters and finds the cube that fell from the building, trying to figure out if the voice came from inside the object. When the cube finally asks for help right in front of him, Hikaru realizes it wasn't just his imagination. Suddenly, the item climbs onto Hikaru's hoodie and emits that same intense light that could be seen from miles away, catching the attention of the girl with the mechanical limbs. A robotic arm emerges from the cube and slowly realizes it's safe. Hikaru spins around trying to understand what's happening and eventually notices something clinging clinging to his back. Naturally, he's utterly shocked and trembling with fear, while the mechanical arm thanks him for saving it and tries to introduce itself, though it seems to have forgotten its own name. Panicking, Hikaru tries to pull the robotic arm off, but as it starts to cry, Hikaru apologizes, still confused. Just then, a delivery drone from Kagami Group announces that the target has been located. Identifying Hikaru as a potential ARMS member, the drone pursues him with spinning blades. Hikaru runs for it with the metallic arm grabbing onto his pants to avoid being left behind. However, this causes Hikaru's pants to fall, making him trip. At that moment, Hikaru offers the robotic arm to the drone, thinking it's the target they're after. But when attacked, the arm manages to repel the enemy and shut it down. Still, several other drones appear with the same mission, and the robotic arm warns Hikaru that they must work together to escape. In the meantime, in a gigantic office building, an important man learns that the trigger arm has been found and that it made contact with someone unrelated to the company, likely a civilian. Upon hearing this, the company's president Naohito Kagami decides to leave the resolution of the problem to his subordinates. One of them orders a perimeter of 2 miles to be established around the area where the civilian was spotted, with instructions that the trigger arm must be recovered at all costs regardless of what happens to the kid. Speaking of the devil Hikaru and his unlikely new friend Hyde, to avoid being spotted by the drones, and their plan works, soon they are safe. Relieved, Hikaru asks what the robotic arm is exactly, but that's a question the arm can't answer since it doesn't even remember its own name. However, it does know one thing: the boy standing before it is kind. Hikaru responds that he hasn't done anything special, but the arm insists it was saved, explaining that without arbitrium, it wouldn't be able to move as well as it is. Hikaru questions what arbitrium is, but the robot ignores the question and instead asks for the boy's name. Returning the favor, Hikaru ignores the question and simply wishes the arm good luck in life. Despite the robot's pleas, the boy turns his back and walks away, but as the trigger arm nearly loses all its power, Hikaru becomes concerned and runs back to check what happened. With that, the arm functions at full capacity again. Hikaru, now frustrated, walks away once more, but the cycle repeats itself. Each time Hikaru distances himself from the machine, it weakens. Realizing there's no other way, the boy gives in and stays by the robot's side. During this interval, drones locate the pair, so the trigger arm takes charge, dashing off with Hikaru in tow, quite literally dragging him along the ground without a care. A Kagami employee observes the situation from above, assuming the drones will handle everything, allowing him to focus on the girl who should be nearby. Speaking of her, Aki Murasama is guided by her mechanical arms towards the path where the mysterious beam originated. When faced with a narrow fork in the road, she decides to cross it anyway, knowing it would shorten her journey. Back to Hikaru, he manages to take control of the sprint, escaping on his own 2 feet, but his exhaustion isn't much better than being dragged. That's when Aki catches up to him and takes charge, bringing Sinis and Dex back into the fight. With ease, the machines destroy all the enemy drones, and the woman turns to the trigger arm, calling it Alma and warning it not to move unless it wants to die. One of Aki's arms insists she must first promise to protect them, but the other arm argues that it no longer matters. Then the mysterious Kagami employee reappears, eager to settle the score for what Aki did to him the previous night. Aki replies that she has no business with the man, while Hikaru and Alma attempt to escape through the narrow path. The girl moves to pursue the duo, but the enemy reacts and prevents her from leaving. Amid the chaos, Hikaru crosses the fork and evades more drones. Aki is furious at the interference of her rival, while the protagonist starts losing his composure amidst this wild and sudden turn of events in his life. Even though he manages to keep running, the exhaustion is catching up to him. Seeing this, Alma offers to stay behind, saying that Kagami is after him, not the boy. And if there's one thing Alma doesn't want, it's for this kind-hearted kid to get hurt for no reason. At that moment, Aki finds the pair after defeating the Kagami employee, now free to carry out her mission. Alma promises to obey the girl if she lets the boy go, but Hikaru remembers reading a report that said ordinary people never even get a chance, and so he decides not to leave the mechanical arm alone in this mess. Seeing that Hikaru is going to resist, Aki sees no choice but to use force, readying her mecha Yude for battle. As this happens, Alma asks for Hikaru's trust and urges him to take a step forward, saying that only by working together will they have a chance. Upon hearing this, the boy recalls the advertisements for Kagami's prep school, always trying to convince people that life is comes easy, which fills him with a surge of anger, propelling him to charge at the adversary. In that instant, Alma activates its mechanism, multiplying in size and strength. With a powerful punch, it slams Aki into the ground. With that, Hikaru and his robotic companion get the chance to escape, and that's exactly what they do. Around the perimeter, other Kagami employees are closing and searching for the fugitives, while the boy and his metal arm take the most improbable paths to avoid being found. Amidst the escape, Hikaru mentions he heard Alma's name from the woman, and introduces himself to the mecha youth. Meanwhile, a young boy collapses in exhaustion upon discovering someone has stolen Alma from him. Using an inhaler, he tries to catch his breath, furiously declaring that the trigger arm belongs to him. At the same time, the leader of a group rivaling Kagamis to which Aki belongs laments her failure, but emphasizes that Alma must be recovered before it falls into enemy hands. With this in mind, Aki is sent back on the same mission. If you're enjoying this journey, don't forget to hit that like button. Your support helps motivate me to keep bringing you each episode. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.